We will start in 2 minutes. We are just waiting for one more panelist. Okay. Good morning again, everybody. I trust everybody had a good rest yesterday evening. For those of us who visited the amazing Great Wall, I trust that you also had a beautiful time. I certainly did. It was definitely so far the highlight of my trip, or one of the big highlights of my trip. And we are ready to start this morning. We have a full panel. We have a stellar panel. In fact, I really do hope that there's enough time to have engagement and question and answers, because the experience of this panel with us today is just exceptional. We'll have 8 presentations. I am going to ask the panelists to try as far as possible. I know that you have about a 10-minute presentation, but if you can shorten it to allow for engagement afterwards, it will be highly appreciated, because we do have 8 presentations. And I will run through the biographies of each of your presenters today, and the sequence within which I read the bios. That's also going to be the sequence of your presenters today. But before I get to the bios, the session today is, the title is Local Values and Decolonizing Evaluation. And we've been talking quite a bit about that over the last 2 days. Certainly in yesterday's plenary panel as well, we touched on some of those issues. And we're looking at answering some of the questions around how evaluation systems, or what evaluation systems can do, and what decision-making can gain from the inclusion of a diversity of knowledge and ways of knowing. So how do we center indigenous knowledge systems and local traditions in evaluation processes? How can we build more reciprocal, respectful relationships with communities that challenge the extractive nature of traditional evaluation approaches? So I'm going to start off with reading the bio of Mr. Chow Sun. Mr. Sun Chow is a senior professional in evaluation methods of the BRICS New Development Bank's Independent Evaluation Office. He has led NDB's first project performance evaluation in South Africa, the first evaluation synthesis report of NDB's on-the-ground presence and regional offices, and the first corporate-level evaluation on NDB's policy framework. He will also be the lead evaluator of NDB's first country portfolio evaluation in China, to assess the bank's entire operations and partnerships with China next year. Chow started his career at NDB in 2018 from the Internal Audit Department. Prior to that, he was a senior audit manager in PricewaterhouseCoopers London and Beijing office. Chow is a certified public accountant, a certified internal auditor, and a bar member of the Ministry of Justice of China. He graduated from Peking University, Beijing Dazhu, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, with dual degrees in law and economics, and obtained a master's degree in finance from the London School of Economics. And Mr. Chow Sun, you can just indicate that, I'll read everybody's bios, but I just wanted to indicate that you are Mr. Chow Sun. Then we've got Pablo Rodriguez Bilela. Pablo Rodriguez Bilela is a consulting sociologist with 20 years of progressively responsible positions in applied and academic social sciences. Pablo has specialized in evaluation of development programs, and he is the PETAS, a research program at the, Pablo, I don't think I'm going to pronounce your university correctly. You can say the name of your university in Argentina. In the last 6 years, he has been a member of the coordinating team of Eval Participativa, a community of practice and learning of participatory evaluation in Latin America. He has been a board member of the IOCE, RELAC, and IDEAS. You can just indicate by raising your hand that you are indeed Pablo. And I have next to me on my left, Patrick Ocwen. Patrick Ocwen is a medical doctor and researcher with experience working with policymakers, governments, and development agencies at international level. He has experience within the basic services, that's health, education, climate resilience, and agriculture, for knowledge brokering in Cameroon, Nigeria, Niger, and Chad. Patrick is an advocate for indigenous ways of doing and knowing in Africa and is currently promoting the use of traditional storytelling approach, Evidence Story Day, for evidence dissemination and knowledge generation. He promotes the African concept of the coming of the two rivers of science and storytelling. Patrick dedicates a lot of his time in training young people from disadvantaged backgrounds in development work and across the evidence ecosystem. He has won several leadership awards with the Joanna Briggs Institute, Cochrane Aubrey Shyham, Africa Evidence Network, Campbell Robert Borach, French Embassy in Cameroon, and the World Bank. And this is Dr. Patrick Ocwen. On my right, I've got Serge Eric, and Serge Eric is a credentialed evaluator, and he's also the co-chair of Eval Indigenous, vice president of the IDEAS, co-chair of the Coordination Committee of Eval Partners, former president of AFRIA, founder of the Cameroonian Center for Evaluation and Rural Development. And he has 20 plus years of experience in research and evaluation with universities, government bodies, CBOs, donors, funders, such as ISDB, AFDB, World Bank, USAID, Global Affairs Canada, EU, and UN agencies. A seasoned evaluation specialist, he led the design and implementation of over 150 country research and evaluations worldwide and within complex development and humanitarian environments. He has worked all across Africa, Europe, North and Central and Latin America, Middle East and Asia, wrote numerous books, co-authored books, training materials, many, contribution to the body of knowledge, and also at a number of universities worldwide. And this is Serge Eric on my right. And now I must apologize for my pronunciation. I'm going to try. Lu Qiqian from Changsha, Yunnan Province, China, graduated from crop genetics and breeding major and is a higher vocational senior agronomist, as well as the executive deputy general manager of Mount Yulu Breeding Innovation Center. He has been engaged in the seed industry for 33 years in listed companies such as Hunan Yua Seed Industry and Longping High Tech. He has organized and implemented more than 30 agricultural aid projects and international agricultural training programs of hybrid rice, and is a strong promoter of international cooperation of China's hybrid rice. Liu is sitting on my far right. Thank you. Jocelyn Corrales is an Ecuadorian, sitting on my right as well. He's an Ecuadorian economist pursuing a master's degree in public policy. With 7 years of experience at the National Planning Secretariat, Jocelyn initially worked in monitoring before transitioning to evaluation for the past 4.5 years. Her roles have involved national and sectoral planning, public policy evaluation, and territorial assessments. She has facilitated participatory processes for feedback on public policies and contributed to the National Development Plan of Ecuador. She has led evaluations in areas like water, child development and malnutrition, and facilitated workshops on the use of INSE results. Her publications include guides on socioeconomic evaluation and public policy. She currently serves as the Undersecretary of Evaluation, where she's leading the implementation of Ecuador's first participatory evaluation with a focus on gender and the Sustainable Development Goals, actively embracing new challenges in the field. Then we have almost there, second last panelist, Dr. Du Dan. And Dr. Du Dan is sitting on my right. Holds a PhD in management from the University of Chinese Academy of Sciences, where her doctoral research focused on poverty reduction policies and multidimensional poverty evaluation. Since 2020, she has been with the National Center for Science and Technology Evaluation, concentrating on impact evaluation of public R&D investment, planning evaluation, and regional innovation evaluation. Dr. Du has led and participated in numerous national and local projects, including impact assessments of national science and technology plans, regional innovation ecosystem evaluations, and local planning assessments. The work has provided valuable insights for government decision-making. And then last but certainly not least, we have Florita Azofaifa on my left. My sincere apologies for the pronunciation of everybody's names and surnames. You can correct me when you speak. Florita has a specialization in public management for social development from the Institute of National Public Administration. I'm not going to try to pronounce the university. Spain, that's in Spain, and a bachelor's degree in social economic planning, National University, Heredia, Costa Rica. She's currently the director of the evaluation and monitoring area of Midiplan. Florita has 34 years experience in the Ministry of National Planning and Economic Policy, with positions including as Director of Evaluation and Monitoring, Director of the Municipal Strengthening and Decentralization Project, Head of the Internal Control Unit, Midiplan, and official of the Special Studies Unit, as well as official of the Regional Planning Directorate, General Coordinator of the Program for the identification and prioritization of public investment projects with regional impact of the Regional Planning Directorate. In terms of her political experience, from 2004 to 2006, Florita was the Vice Minister of the Ministry of National Planning and Economic Policy. From 1990 to 1998, the District, Cantonal, and Provincial Delegate for the Christian Social Unity Party, and from 1986 to 1990, she was the councillor in the municipality of Acosta for the Christian Social Unity Party. Colleagues, please give a round warm of applause to all of our panelists. Chao San, you are on the floor. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. This way. Okay. Thank you, Candice, for the fantastic introduction. And dear colleagues, I'm Sun Chao, senior professional from the Independent Evaluation Office of the New Zealand Bank. I will spend around 10 minutes quickly introduce you about the evaluation function of our bank and also the practice of our experience in customizing the evaluation to the context about our member countries from the Global South. For the colleagues who are still not very familiar with the name of the NDB, 新开发银行, we are a multilateral development bank established by the BRICS countries, 金砖国家, in July 2015, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with headquarters in Shanghai, China. As the first MDB established by the different countries and also for the different countries, we have a unique structure. Equal shareholding and equal voting power among all the 5 founding member countries means no one holds veto power on any matter. The use of country system in the environmental, social, and governance, and also the product procurement is also a defining feature of our operational approach. We do not impose policy and political conditionality alongside our investment, instead committing to nurture national initiatives and respect our member countries' development priorities. As of today, we have 8 full members after the first round membership expansion, and also focus on financing sustainable infrastructures, which is also the priority of the emerging economies in the coming decades. Using the borrowing countries' own regulation and also the oversight procedures whenever possible is a priority and also the key component of our mandate since the establishment of the NDB in July 2015. We believe using the country system is the best way to strengthen a country's own capacity and also trying to achieve long-term development results. Therefore, in every single project, we try to verify the quality of the borrowing country's environmental, social, fiduciary, and procurement system as a first step, and to use them whenever they meet our principle-based requirements, rather than bypass them with external standards. In cases where a country system are not deemed acceptable, we will try to fulfill the gaps with additional requirements tailored to the specific needs of the interventions, but also based on the consultation with the people on the ground. That is in line with our intention of establishing a relationship of the respect with the borrowers from the global south. Now we are implementing the second general strategy, as I show on the screen, which covers the period until the 2026. And further elaborated that this country system-oriented approach is designed to achieve twin goals of, number one, protecting against the misuse of project resources and also any negative impacts on the environment and vulnerable groups. And number two, strengthening the local frameworks and also the implementation capacity of the borrowers to the long-term benefits of the country's development path. After completing NDB's first 5 years general strategy in 2021, it has been recognized that the second general strategy cycle from the 2022 to 2026 will be the right time to continually improving our operational quality. So under this overarching context, the evaluation office, as shown on the screen, was established in April 2022 to improve NDB's development effectiveness and further the achievement of our mandate. To generate common understanding on the approach to evaluation, an IEO strategy was also adopted last year, which includes 3 pillars, such as support the development of NDB self-evaluation capacities, promote lessons to support the development of the bank's policy strategies, and also we're trying to promote an evaluation culture, not only in the bank, and also in our member countries. I think the very unique thing I want to highlight here today is an evaluation manual adopted by us this year, provide general guidance for conducting evaluations. And our manual has been prepared based on the unique genesis of the bank, emphasize country ownership, proactive engagement dialogue, and also commitment of being driven by NDB membership, as well as promoting the use of country system. It ensures that all the evaluation processes proposed by us are properly customized to the specific context of our member countries, enhancing the usefulness of the evaluation done by our bank and also the office. We commit to customized evaluation design at the outside of the process and put the borrowing countries and their priority at the center of the evaluation instead of supply or donor-driven approach. To achieve this objective, I shall show it on the screen, we have delivered a product mix of different type of evaluation to ensure sufficient coverage. So far, we have completed 11 evaluations within 2 years, including 7 project performance evaluation and a thematic evaluation on NDB's COVID-19 emergency response program, covering all the member countries, covering all the funding member countries, and also 2 corporate level evaluations on our financial architecture and also the policy framework, as well as an evaluation synthesis report. Among the 7 project performance evaluations, I'd like to share one case regarding the renewable energy sector development project evaluated by us in South Africa, which is very closely relevant to the topic today. In this evaluation, we have considered and applied the national evaluation guidelines issued by the South Africa Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, the DPME, about applying the climate and ecosystem health criteria in commissioning the evaluation. It focuses on evaluating the outcomes arising from how intervention activities interact with climate and ecosystem, and also trying to provide insight on enhancing the intervention strategies to positively impact the environment, thereby increasing the resilience of the intervention. For example, in our case, it's a 5 renewable infrastructure, the renewable infrastructure selected through the country's independent power producer program, and also their beneficiaries to the climate change. We have integrated those considerations within the traditional OECD DAC criteria. By assessing this perspective, we found the project has been evaluated for any adverse impact on the land and water use and also loss of biodiversity. The power plants financed by our funds has put in place proper arrangement for monitoring, reporting on the environmental social management plan by following the country's own regulation. In addition to the climate and also the eco-health criteria, we have also considered and applied another guideline issued by the DPME that focuses on the transformative equity. in this particular evaluation. It examines how an intervention's goals, planning, implementation, and outcomes either address or fail to address systematic inequities. The evaluation found that such projects have promoted a more inclusive society through the Black Economic Empowerment, the BEE, shareholding, and also provided employment creation and enterprise development for the local communities on the ground. For example, the Redstone Star project, which is one of the largest concentrated solar power plants in Africa, as you can see in the screen on the left side, has given 24% shareholding to their BEE partners and also 15% to the local community trust. Furthermore, the South Africa Independent Power Producer Program also requires all the projects to be financed must allocate at least 1% of their annual revenue during the 20 years of commercial operations for promoting the social and the economics development to contribute to broader national objectives. I see some colleagues also attend the Asian Evaluation Week in 2023 last year in Bangkok, where we shared the evaluations and other 2 renewable energy projects financed by us in Brazil and also the South Africa, which indicate that using country system will be one of the best way to improve a country's own capacity and achieve better long-term development result. This particular evaluation we have done this year actually give us more lessons on that. It is also an example demonstrate how we tailor evaluation designs to align with the specific priorities of the developing country, which is still under significant social and economic transformation since the 1994. Okay. I think last 2 slides I have. For all the product performance evaluation, we have tried to mobilize the independent external peer reviewer to review our approach paper and also the draft report. Attention has been devoted by us to mobilize resources from the relevant member countries, such as the South Africa Monitoring Evaluation Association, SAMIA, and also DPME for the cases of our evaluations in South Africa, and also the Asia Pacific Financial Development Institute, Shanghai 国家会计学院, for the 2 evaluations we have done in China. So that our evaluation can also benefit from the deeper appreciation of the local context. In addition, and also the peer review reports are also published as part of our overall evaluation part on our website. Colleagues, if you're interested, you can go there, have a look. I think in addition to the local peer reviewer, another initiative we found very useful is the important role played by our high-level evaluation advisory committee. In December 2022, our board of directors approved to establish this committee to regularly provide strategic advice on evaluation priorities, methodology, and related topics to bring assurance to all the stakeholders about the quality of our work. As you can see on the screen, each of the members are the nationals of our member country and has proven experience in 1 or 2 more member countries, has strongly supported our practice in customizing evaluation to the context of our stakeholders from the Global South. That is my short presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope you find our experience useful and looking forward to your valuable inputs during the Q&A session. Thank you, Candice. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Chow. That was perfect timing, in fact, so thank you so much. I would like to ask you as the audience, please take down your questions, note them. We will take the, in the final, after the final presentation, we'll take all of the questions. Thank you so much. Pablo, you're on the floor.
I will come closer to the screen. Pablo, it's mine. Well, thank you very much. My university is Universidad Nacional de San Juan, National University of San Juan in Argentina. And I am here to introduce Eval Participativa, which is a joint project between my university and the DEVAL, which is the German Institute for Evaluation of the Development Cooperation in Germany. So Eval Participativa is a community of practice of learning and learning in participatory evaluation in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have been working for 6 years now. We are ending our 6th year of the project. And this is our webpage. Our webpage is our home. It's the place where you will find all the things that I will not be able to say in 10 minutes. So there you will see who we are, what are we doing, the activities we are doing now, library resources about participatory evaluation, mainly in Spanish. We think that we have built the biggest library on participatory evaluation in Spanish, and we are adding other resources. The webpage is also in English, so in this has the intention to stress our will to make connections with the whole world and to expand the learnings and the lessons learned in Latin America to other places. So to share some highlights of these 6 years, in the first 2 years, we have the first Latin American meeting on participatory evaluation, and based on that meeting, we wrote that book, which is also in English, and you can download it from our page, is Sowing and Harvesting, a manual of participatory evaluation that it has our approach to participatory evaluation. And later, we have built this pedagogical teaching guide for facilitators. And that word is key for us because in participatory evaluation, the role that the evaluator has to have is to be a facilitator. In the second stage, we have been doing a lot of trainings on participatory evaluation, both face-to-face and virtual, in different countries of Latin America, and also we have some experience abroad. This has been a very intense experience because we have learned a lot trying to teach participatory evaluation. Now we are finishing our third stage where we have stressed the importance to have new links with other contexts and with other places of the world where participatory evaluation can have a place, can have something to do. So very recently, we have had an encounter in Cameroon 3 weeks ago. Probably Patrick later will tell you something a bit more about this. We have an encounter between participatory evaluators from Latin America and storytellers from Africa. And we are trying to understand what are the links between us, what are the points of contacts, where we can meet and what we can learn one from the other. So it was a very strong meeting for us because we try to understand, well, what are you doing? What can we do similar to that? What can evaluators can learn from storytelling? What storytellers can learn to relate it with evaluation? So we are at the end, we are going to share a QR of 6 minutes video of this encounter, so you could have a general idea. And we are producing now a report because this meeting, it happened just 3 weeks ago. Related with that, well, this is a nice video because you can understand easily which people are from Africa by the way they dance. So the awful dancers are from Latin America, at least us. Well, very briefly, our approach to participatory evaluation has to do with links and connections of participatory evaluation. At the global level, we found a lot of connection with transformative evaluation, empowerment evaluation, collaborative approach to evaluation, and the last one is developmental evaluation. And the roots in Latin America has to do with popular education and all the approach of Paulo Freire, participatory action research, and the approach of sistematization de experiencias that we have also been working a lot. These are some of the principles of participatory evaluation that we have been working during these years. We have tried to stress some ideas, not to be fixed to a particular definition of participatory evaluation, but to see, well, we have to pay attention to how relevant actors are incorporated in the evaluation process, how local knowledge is recognized during the evaluation, how institutional representatives joint efforts with local participants, what is the role of techniques, participatory techniques in evaluation, how actors participate both in processes and results in the evaluation, how the evaluative process reinforces local competencies, and the last one is the one I mentioned before, is the key role that evaluators has to play as facilitators of the process. This is the participatory evaluation process we have been working. It has 3 classical phases. The thing is that we are trying to stress that local participants, as well as institutional participants, has a place to play in each one of these stages. In some of them, there are some advances, in some others, there is the necessity to do a lot of work. But this is a kind of framework that we want to have in mind every time we talk about participatory evaluation. We want to go more beyond than consultancy. We want to integrate people, local actors, institutional actors in each of these stages. Now we are finishing a book about participatory experiences in Latin America, where we have tried to identify, well, what's happening in each of these stages with the participation of the different actors. Well, here you have the QR for the video of our retreat. Patrick will share some additional issues about this. And you are very welcome to visit our webpage. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Oh, it is on. Thank you very much, Pablo. That was brilliant. And Patrick, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I will be talking to you today about a participatory approach of evaluation, which is inbuilt in traditions that existed before colonization. And from our understanding at eBase, there was an arrested development on using stories to evaluate the impact of what the chiefs or the funds had rolled out in their communities. And we want to pick up from there. Okay. So my name is Patrick Okwen, and I'm the team lead at eBase Africa. So once upon a time, we had the chief of a community in Cameroon. He was called Mfon Njoya. And this was pre-colonial. And he had a writing of his own. And he had ways he measured how interventions or things that he brought into his kingdom was actually impacting the lives of people. And I want you to notice that at the outer portions of his stories, there were binary formats, maybe 3 formats. But in essence, we can identify that there are things here that are similar to computing. And I always do my presentation. I do presentations sometimes with just these writings. And people will say, hey, stop. This doesn't look African. This looks like modern day computing. But what could have happened if Mfon Njoya was allowed to continue developing his writing format, his evaluation techniques? So what is storytelling according to us at eBase? So, and how can we use it? So technically, we believe that you can use stories to generate, to translate, and to communicate data. And this is very important in the work we do. especially because we believe that evaluation should not only be knowledge generation. If you only generate the data, then you've ended with the objective of generating data. But we have to make sure that this data is used. And for this data to be used, it needs to be translated and it needs to be communicated. So we developed an approach called Evidence Story Day, which is a systematic, interactive approach to communication of data and evaluation of change based on indigenous African principles of storytelling. And Evidence Story Day is in the local pidgin language in Africa, which means let's talk evidence. It is both entertaining and educative, and it employs the use of recounting, drama, dance, poems, mimes, and songs. And that is what we were doing in Limbe with Petas and with support from Deval. Now, we can achieve a lot from storytelling. First of all, it's that we can use storytelling to communicate data. We can also use storytelling to evaluate change. And we can use storytelling after evaluating change to retell stories to people, to let them understand why we had poor outcomes in our evaluation and what these poor outcomes could actually mean for their lives. And that is what we call inoculation stories. These are the steps that we follow in the evidence process, and you will realize that it's a cycle of knowledge generation, knowledge translation, and ultimately knowledge dissemination, which is probably the most holistic way that we can think about evaluation, because we begin from the generation, then we translate it from the complex scientific language, and then we communicate it to people in the community so that they can be able to use it, or they may be able to understand why policy and practice has changed. Now, looking at the approach we have used in the past, we used an approach called the triple jump to identify topics that were of importance and to ensure that we are not duplicating research, and also to exploit situations in which research had been conducted in different communities or different contexts, but which we could just tweak the results a little bit and then we can use it at our context. And that is what the triple jump is all about. And I borrowed this slide from one of my other slides that we presented in the Evidence Education Network. And in essence, here we realize that two key points of focus is exploring indigenous knowledge and innovations and indigenous knowledge mobilization. Now, one of the projects that came out of this process of transferability that we conducted was the Menstrual Hygiene Management Project, which we did together with UN Women, the Ministry of Secondary Education, the Education Endowment Foundation. And this was a randomized control trial, a cluster randomized control trial. Our objective was, how can we begin to bring in these old traditions of evaluation into modern approaches, and how can we attempt to triangulate and, in the process, validate storytelling, understand it better, and validate it. So within the randomized control trials, we introduced storytelling diaries, which works together in both the intervention groups and the control groups, where girls are free to write about their experiences with learning and menstruation, guided by a few questions, but they are open to write as much as possible, which frees us from the rigid or the straitjackets that we have when we come along with just questionnaires and variables that we have predetermined, sometimes without even consulting the research participants. We also did a similar thing in social and emotional learning in conflict settings, where we adapted the CASEL framework, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social and Emotional Learning, with Ubuntu principles of collective fingers theory. And we introduced even more stories, 665 stories in control group and 709 stories or diaries from the control group, intervention and control group, sorry. Now, we can find out that there were very interesting results here. I mean, this is a discussion that we could take a whole day talking about, but you can see that there is a key relation between Ubuntu principles, behavioral well-being, and performance in mathematics based on the stories that we gathered from the kids in the schools, both intervention and control groups. Now, talking about the comings of the Two River, which is our dissemination process, we believe that science needs to meet stories in order to communicate better. And in essence, the people who do disinformation and misinformation use this very perfectly. And we need to stop talking to ourselves as evaluators. We sit in conferences and we share our complex data, but the people who need to use that data do not understand that complexity. And that's why we are looking at the comings of the Two Rivers. And if you scan this QR code, you may be able to see our write-up that we did with Evaluación Participativa on how these two rivers come together and how the data speaks through stories. And we had looking at one of the first steps that we are taking towards really developing this approach is the work that we had in Limbe with Evaluación Participativa. It was during the full moon in Limbe, just like we had the full moon yesterday at the wall. We came together with storytellers all across Cameroon to talk about how we could use stories in different interventions, working together with Evaluación Participativa, who have an experience, and it's a strong South-South collaboration, which engaged the VAL as well. So we have South-South-North collaboration that is looking towards developing this old tradition of evaluation through storytelling. And this was the retreat in Limbe. And here, if you scan the QR code, you can also see the video that Pablo had earlier mentioned. But next year, we also have another event still in Limbe. And if you scan this QR code, you could see more. And if you missed the 2024 event, you should be able to attend the 2025 event. And this is going to be evaluation on foundational literacy and numeracy with a strong focus on how we used storytelling in this approach. Thank you.
Ah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm really impressed by the quality of the presentations, but also the timing. Everybody's been exceptionally on time. Serge Eric, you are on the floor.
Thank you so much. I don't know whether I'm going to stand or maybe I stay like others. But anyway, let's stand and follow the step of my peers. You know, after you have Sun Shao from the bank, you know, having the money to fund our interventions. And then we have impressive Pablo and Patrick's who come in with some piece of our jobs. When I say our job is that, Serge Eric, I'm co-chairing the evaluators networks. And then the evaluation network is a global movement, not only for promoting the decolonizing evaluation principle, but also supporting the evaluation from the grassroots. So let me take you to what we call how we can embedding indigenous evaluation principle into a national evaluation system. Because the system is the heart of the country. It's where we place everything we want to see for everyone. But little story about our baby, evaluators. Some said it's no longer a baby. We have two key ways of our workings. We have a practitioner task force where we focus on documenting the methods. Practice, basically from practitioners and also from all stakeholders involved into the evaluations. And then this includes professionals, but also those who are really, really interested to support the evaluation principle, basically moving from the grassroots, with, as Patrick said, intended or unintended way of doing it. So we have the global context where we aim to get all those who are doing Patrick's, Pablo, everyone's elsewhere, and then bring it together into a global pictures, because our aim is to cover the, I don't know if we can say 6 continents, but let's say the global world, you know, moving from Africa to elsewhere. And then we believe that it's good to understand and recognize the diversity in the culture. Most importantly, in the language. Patrick, you talk about communications. Like this morning, I enjoy breakfast sections where I see OECD and UNICEF translating the glossary into Chinese language to ease the understanding about the principle. Then maybe a small word because the question you shared to us, Candice, about how we can embed it and make sure that we move in together very well. So what we hear most often transform our life. And it depends on the way people transmit the communication to us. And we have to be careful very well, very importantly. So at the Evaluators Indigenous, we believe that it's really good to engage fundamental aspect of knowledge to understand, produce and value knowledge differently. Some ask me, why differently? Because diversity is a key. People get it on the way they want to use it. If they didn't get it, they will get it on the wrong way and then nothing going to happen. And then we that we go to researching to structural evaluation design approaches, method to address historical power imbalance and colonial legacy. Patrick shared with you the first photo about the king of Joya in Cameroon in the past. Why? Because this is the fundamental place of how we build the wall. We can't change, but we adapt. And then we have to recognize the diversity perspective, including the rationalities, spirituality, very important. Because most often we just pass away about spiritual thinking, so which is where we connect with our ancestors. And then we have to connect with our land, community. This is where everything grew from. And we believe that these are where principle of evaluation should design forms. At Evaluators Indigenous, we are not pretending that we are creating, but we believe that it's good to get some kind of innovations into what we are hearing from all stakeholders. That's why we build and work to produce tools, most inclusive, equitable, aligned to the diversity community need and aspiration. Very important. Secondly, we believe that we have to work around the challenge of the assertion of universality of knowledge productions. We don't believe that knowledge is universal. No. Knowledge is context specific. And then another challenge about power structures driving knowledge productions. It depends on who is holding the story. Who is telling the story, decide what you want to hear from him. But we believe that we have to work to make sure that everyone tells his own story. You have to tell your own narrative and then describe who you are and how you are moving in. And then, there are a number of indigenous methodology. I don't want to skip because Patrick and Patrick will already mark the way. But this book also another example where you can find a number of details. And then those should be keeping into existing methods and variants. We believe that we have to move to ethics properly when we are talking about decolonizing evaluation to make sure that we impact the understanding for everyone. It's not for some specific target only. And then, yes, indeed, oral transmissions is another way we are skipping away, but it's happening. And then I want to make sure that, I want to inform you that on the evaluation networks, you have a massive storytelling. We have been able to achieve for over the past 9 years. Story from all over the world where you're going to learn number of settings on evaluations. And then we also try to push about identity, privilege, giving privilege to people, and then most importantly, that the position we are receiving is what we deserve. So that's why our job is how to promote this very important principle about personalities. Yes, indeed, I want to come back on this. Again, we move to participatory approach. I think Pablo and Patrick came back on that. And then finally, centering the marginalized voices. These are those people who pretend we are developing interventions, but to what extent do we give them space to speak? Then, saying this, let me take you now to how we just simply promoting the way of decolonizing the evaluation practice. Look about the bus. Everyone, for one time in our life, maybe people sitting in this room at least took a car. And then it depends on who sits on the wheel, right? Who do we put on the wheel driving the process? And then who are sitting in the back? This is where the design of our jobs have to be call us to how to understand the places we are giving to everyone into the interventions. Either you are the one doing the wheel or you are the one sitting in the back. And it is where the overall, interest of the process matter. So I'm just bringing about the design because everything starts at these stages. Sometimes in our evaluations, we wait at the end to try to find out what happens, are we doing things better, and then we escalate a little more, but it's very late. It's too late. Because it's at the beginning, we might very well, we make sure in the car, everyone has his own seat, the one he deserves. We don't have to put to the end to look about whether we do things on the way it was planned. But at the end, we just look about what is missing. How can we move forward because we have to be progressive. So, and then this means that evaluators, by having this mindset thinking, is to support the SDG effectively so that we ensure that no one is left behind. And then, maybe just to give you about our summary about how we believe that this journey should happen. So moving to improving evaluation practice, we believe that it's good to have accurate finding where people tell their own story so that we can improve those findings and then you have improved capacity. Capacity for those who don't understand. Remember the story about Patrick in the village. When you went there, people sitting there. You are going there to learn, not to teach. You go there with the perspective of teaching people, you are wrong. It means that it's very important to get the system of the body, improve on capacity, mutual capacity learning for those who are coming and those who are sitting in. And then you can be able to move about transformations using the context and cultural factors. Most importantly, building on equity, a real equity and social justice to support a system change. And then for sure, we'll be able to have a program success with the valid ownership and sovereignty. And finally, we will just, and then again, continue the journey, which is about knowledge dissemination and transmissions. So these are the three areas of the evaluators for which we believe very strongly. Respect for the rights,
2 minutes.
for confidentiality, for indigenous knowledge, most importantly, where we transmit the knowledge we are receiving. So I think it's coming back again repeatedly, but I think that was my last slide. Last slide to say that this is the case study we have been developing, and we are continuing the journey with Fund Foundations. Because Fund Foundation comes in with a different perspective of funding, and also call it other donors to follow. How? They didn't involve into our design. They are participating into the backstopping communication only. It means we design our intervention the way we want to get it to see worldwide. In Asia, with the APIA, in Africa, to a little bit Africa, and also with the Arctics, in Latin America, and then very soon in Europe. We just get the colleagues, the not. So if you scan evaluators, you're going to get more about the lesson on this project. And then finally, Candice, this is a message for evaluators on what we believe very strongly. We seek a world in which there's a room for many words. Thank you so much. Here we can have more time to exchange, and then for sure there are many ways we can push the work for everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Serge. It feels like now is the right time, actually, and I'm revising my initial approach to at least take 2, maybe 3 questions, because it seems like those 4 presentations really connected to each other. But I'm going to ask for your help. Everybody's got to help us here. We've got very little time, so if you can keep your question or your comment very, very short and direct it to a specific panelist, and panelists, can you keep your response very, very short as well? I think I'm just going to take 3. So if you can raise your hand and I can recognize you. A comment or a question for those first 4 presentations. Oh, there doesn't seem to be anything right now. Okay, Sylvia, 1, 2. So I'll take these 2 and then we'll move to the next. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the really interesting presentations. I actually have 2 really quick questions. One is for Pablo, but probably also for the other colleagues. One of the challenges that we face when we think about participatory approaches is that balance between participation and burden for participants, just the time it takes or the engagement it takes. So I would be very interested in knowing how you navigate that element. And one question for Patrick. I was very curious to understand a bit better the connection between the storytelling and the randomized control trials, in particular how you combined the findings and the conclusions when communicating the findings.
Thanks for the presentation of everyone. I have some question for Mr. Sun, and I learned a lot about NDB in your presentation. And as you mentioned, you apply the country system to assess the capacity of certain country. And here's the question: is there any criteria applied when you assessing the capacity of certain country? And the second, what kind of conclusion or parameter is stated in the country system related documents? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the question. The topic is one that we used to discuss a lot because it has to do with the right of participation. And we always try to think and to stress the right to participate, because many times people have been excluded from that right. One dimension of of this challenge is, can we invite to participate people who have not been invited to design, to plan the intervention? And many times the question is yes, of course, although we have to spend many time explaining that. Yeah. On the other hand, there is also the choice, the dimension of the right of not participation. So we have to be open, especially in the side of evaluators, on the side of planning, that perhaps many times we are pushing too hard to involve people, and we have to understand that they have the choice to say, no, I don't want to participate, I have not been invited before to this effort, so I just will answer your question. But the most important thing for us is they are involved in thinking the questions. So this issue of the participation of people in the different stages that I showed before, for us is quite central. And we have discussion and doubts about that. We don't have complete answers for this.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your very useful questions. So I'll first start with the question on burden, and this is something we've been thinking about, because in participatory approach, especially the one we are using, where we use storytelling and girls have to tell their stories, sometimes on a daily basis, about learning and menstruation, for example, it means that apart from their homework, they still have to take care of their diary. So the burden kind of shifts to them a little, much more than when you just come around with a survey and just fill this out. But there are a lot of gains that we can get from this. First of all, there's a lot of trust that you build. I believe that this approach is one thing I have really appreciated in it, is the trust that they have in the process, and participants telling you that we want to know what you found out from the other schools. We want to know what is going on. We want to know how this is affecting. It already tells you that they would be more receptive to the results of your study, however it comes out to be in support of your hypothesis or not. Then the second question is around the connections between storytelling and RCTs. Now, I'll highlight this by mentioning that it's a long time we've been struggling with storytelling as an approach. And it's getting better. But originally, when we started, as we talk about storytelling, there were lots of pushbacks, like, how have you validated this tool? Where has it been tried before? But for us to validate the tool, we have to start using it and developing it in processes like what we are doing with Eval Participativa. So one thing we were very happy to do was that when we were able to find funders who were happy to do an RCT and then integrate the storytelling, this was the perfect approach for us to validate the approach. So what did we do? We have a survey, which is the survey for the randomized control trials. Then we have the storytelling guides. Now, the difference between the two is that The survey, for example, will be exploring the quality of learning. For example, were you able to focus in class today? And the answer is yes and no. So it's a very cold data. Then, in the storytelling diary, they are open on a daily basis to write about their experiences with menstruation and learning. And this begins before the intervention and after the intervention. So they could say that, today I went to school and I was not able to learn because the boys were jeering at me or because I was feeling uncomfortable because of my menstruation. And then we observe how these stories change over time to see if in the control group and the intervention group there is a difference. And in the end, we are going to triangulate this with the results from the survey and see if there is a difference and why. Thank you.
I will try to make it short. Thank you very much for the question. It's like, I think every couple of years, NDB will do a country-level assessment for the member country procurement system and also the environmental social. And some of the reports are published on our website. For example, holding a latest report regarding country procurement system assessment for NDB finance products in India. This is also available on our website. And on the country level, I think my colleagues, they do some review, for example, focus on general financial rules of the country, procurement manuals, and also model tender documents developed by the central government and also the state government on the sector basis. And also we do the assessment on a risk-based approach to understand how the framework was designed and how it's being implemented. On the specific project level, this is overall macro level on the country. Project level, we also assess the capacity of the project implementation agencies. For example, how many people they have, is really familiar with the national laws or not, and during the implementation, what is the implementation result? In the past, have they worked with other development partners such as World Bank, ADB or not? If they have worked, what is the implementation and also cooperation experience on them? And this is our overall experience. And for the cases in China, for example, 90% of our operations in China, sovereign operations or sovereign guarantee operations, according to China's law, all the international organization loan need to be audited by the National Audit Office, and we use their report doing our, not only in the evaluation, but also during the project implementations. If their audit report not only focus on the financial part, but also the procurement and the compliance to our loan agreements. I hope it's addressed your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chow. I know that we have to microwave our responses, but we appreciate you trying your best. But please do, if you find you want to talk to somebody some more, please grab them during lunchtime or tea time. Mr. Liu Qishan, you are next.
好，大家好，我是那个 PPT 能放一下吗？对，然后我是来自湖南长沙岳麓山总业创新中心的刘志贤，非常荣幸啊，受邀参加今天的这个沙龙的活动。那么今天我跟大家分享的题目是杂交水稻国际合作的经验与成效，推广勤劳致富的价值观与应用型的技术。好，那么首先我简单介绍一下我的单位的情况。那么这个岳麓山总业创新中心呢，是我们湖南省政府联合征信集团牵头来跟这个总业领域的一些产学研的优势单位共建的一种新型研发机构。我们是高度汇聚了包括袁隆平院士团队在内的湖南的这个9大农业院士贴团那么我们呢是致力于成为这个国家的这个总业方面的一个战略科技力量，并且为解决世界农产品供给问题提供我们的解决的方案。下面这个图案里面是显示的就是我们湖南的这个院士贴团。我们你看我们有这个杂交水稻之父袁先生，我们还有油菜院士，有养猪院士，有养鱼院士，有茶叶院士等等那么民以食为天，那么现在我们重点要讨论的就是我们人类的这个吃饭问题。那么众所周知我们这个考量是我们全世界共同关心的一个问题。那么尤其我们是这个面向我们的 非洲国家的话，我们是更加的关切。第一呢，就是我们非洲的这个基本的一个情况，据这个了解，非洲的这个平均的耕地面积是中国的3倍，总共也有31亩的农田，还有未开垦的87亿公顷的土地，具有巨大的农业的潜力。然而呢，尽管资源丰富，许多的非洲人呢，仍然是面临着食物短缺的问题。第二一个是我们对目前的一些西方国家的一些援外的效果的一个评估。那么长期以来呢，这个西方国家对非洲的粮食援助和经济援助，使非洲的受援国产生了比较大的一个依赖的心理。那么从20世纪70年代到20世纪末，西方国家对非洲国家是提供了大量的这个援助，但是呢，也恰恰在这个时候呢，非洲的贫困人口数量从原来的11%增长到了66%。那么由此我们得出了一个结论：对于这个援助国家而言，只有提供的这个对外援助能够减少受援国的贫困，对受援国的经济增长有促进作用的这种援助才是有价值的。根据我们中国的经验扶贫使先扶志。那么单单依靠经济援助是难以实现解决贫困问题的。因此，我们认为援助应该成为鼓励劳动、倡导劳动致富的这样一个有效的一个手段。接着我来讲一下我们的这个中国的方案。那么湖南是杂交水稻的发源地，实践也证明了湖南的杂交水稻为世界粮食短缺的问题提供了良好的一个解决方案。那么我援引2022年习近平总书记在国际论坛上的一个发言，他是这么说的：是半个世纪之前，这个杂交水稻在中国是率先研发成功，并且得到大面积的推广，助力中国因不足全球9%的耕地，解决了世界近1/5人口的吃饭问题，成为世界第1大粮食生产国和第3大的粮食的出口国。那么自从1979年起，杂交水稻是远播5大洲，近70个国家，为各国的这个粮食增产和农业发展做出了突出贡献，为解决发展中国家粮食短缺问题提供了中国方案。那么事实上，到目前为止全球的杂交水稻的播种面积是超过了2亿亩这是每年。那么每年的这个稻谷的产量是超过了1.2亿吨。那么也根据这个统计数据国外的这个杂交水稻普遍比当地的水稻要增产20%以上，也就是说是每公顷的这个增产量达到了2吨甚至更高有的地方是成倍的增产。目前来说，杂交水稻已被这个联合国的粮农组织列为解决发展中国家粮食短缺问题的一个首选的技术。湖南杂交水稻这个为世界粮食安全做出了巨大的贡献。那么下面呢，就是我来分享一个最新的这么一个案例应该说这个是发生在马达加斯加的这么一个项目目前来说是到2023年底，我们在马达加斯加的杂交水稻的这个推广种植的这个面积达到了7.5万公顷，平均的产量呢达到了7.5吨每公顷，最高的示范产量是达到了12吨每公頃，远远高于当地2到3吨的每公顷的这个平均产量同时呢，我们也建成了年产6000吨的大米的加工厂，那么实现了从这个育种、制种、种植、加工以及销售全产业链的一个覆盖。我们的项目组在这个前方他们也这个帮助当地人民解决这个温饱问题解决他们的这个发家的致富的问题。那么马达加斯加的这个农民下面这个图里面第3个图就是这个农民这个蒂拉他的一家子在进行这个杂交水稻的收割那么他是通过这个杂交水稻的种植 不仅解决了一家人的吃饭的问题，还有多余的水稻进行这个售卖。那么他的收入是不断增加的同时呢，家里面也盖了新房，那么对生活也是充满了这个期待那么通过我们的这个分析和这个经验的这个总结的话，我们认为就说我们的这个杂交水稻的推广应该这个取得了这么几方面的一个成效。第一呢，是我们是践行了这个人类命运共同体的这么一个伟大的一个理念通过对杂交水稻技术的全球化的推广，保障了这个受援国或者说杂交水稻技术合作国家的这个粮食的一个安全，这个促进世界和平与发展，这是第一个。第二个呢，是我们呢推广了这个勤劳致富的价值观。我们的项目组每来到一个国家，都会讲好我们的这个袁隆平的故事宣传我们袁隆平的这个精神也会跟当地的老百姓打成一片把这个我们的这种科学的这种精神传导到每一个这个农民的这个身上。第三一个的话呢，就是传播技术，授人以渔通过对当地人员的这个组织培训，使他们呢真正能够掌握到我们杂交水稻的这个种植的技术能够提高他们的这个粮食的产量和收入。第四一个就是推进了这个产业链的发展助力当地的这个农业向着这个更现代的一个迈进。那么我们重点是为了杂交水稻的推广，当然我们也有这个这个除了种植之外，我们也会把我们的一些养殖项目包括这个养猪养羊这些养殖项目，还有水产项目等等，会结合杂交水稻的推广一并推广到这些相应的这些国家。那么这样的话呢，同时我们也构建了这么一个从这个品种到种植到推广种植到加工到销售的这么一个产业链助力当地的这个农业的这个产业化的一个发展。以上呢就是我对于杂交水稻我们国际合作的一个经验和成效的一个分享，希望呢对我们本次的这个会议的召开能够有所帮助也希望有兴趣的组织能够参与和指导我们的对我们这个杂交水稻项目的一个价值的一个评估最后呢我是引袁隆平先生的一句话作为我的一个结语：发展杂交水稻，造福世界人民。Developing hybrid rice for the welfare of the people all over the world. Thank you.
I think that we can actually pass the mic to George. Thank you.
Buenos días con todos. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación a contarles lo que hemos hecho en Ecuador en cuanto a la evaluación participativa, que sin duda es una de las evaluaciones más importantes en nuestro país porque es la primera. Bueno, les voy a comentar el día de hoy cómo empieza en Ecuador el proceso de realizar la primera evaluación participativa. Para nosotros fue necesario escoger y ver qué tema vamos a seleccionar. Para esto solicitamos a las instituciones de gobierno que postulen los servicios que quieren evaluar. Recibimos alrededor de 43 servicios que querían ser evaluados. Es importante también mencionar que gracias al apoyo del proyecto FOSELAC de DEVAL, tuvimos el acompañamiento de una facilitadora. Entonces, en este sentido, con esta facilitadora y también con el apoyo técnico de FOSELAC, creamos una matriz de evaluabilidad que tenga criterios que incluyan los criterios de participación. En este sentido hicimos esta matriz y fue que fuimos realizando reuniones con ciertas instituciones, con 5 instituciones, para determinar qué tipo de servicio es el más susceptible de evaluación. Entonces hicimos reuniones con ellos. Finalmente seleccionamos un solo servicio, que son los espacios de socialización y encuentro para adultos mayores. ¿Qué objetivo tiene este servicio? Es garantizar el envejecimiento activo y saludable de personas adultas mayores, que en Ecuador son las personas mayores a 65 años, en condiciones de pobreza, pobreza extrema y vulnerabilidad. ¿Por qué también escogimos este servicio para poder evaluar con este tipo de evaluación? Porque han sido voces que durante años en Ecuador no han sido escuchadas y que necesitábamos escuchar las necesidades y realidades de nuestros adultos mayores. Al ser un servicio que se entrega a nivel nacional, era importante iniciar empezando un pilotaje en 3 centros, que son urbano y rural, en Cayambe, La Merced y La Magdalena, que bueno, estos son unas places in Ecuador. ¿Cómo iniciamos? Iniciamos obviamente construyendo nuestro equipo ideal y lo hemos llamado nuestro equipo ideal en el proceso de evaluación participativa, porque se necesitan las personas adecuadas para poder sostener un tipo de evaluación que no es convencional, que no dura un año, sino que toma más tiempo. Para esto nosotros como Secretaría Nacional de Planificación, como el ente rector de seguimiento y evaluación, lideramos esta evaluación, pero contamos también en este equipo de evaluación con el Ministerio de Salud, el Ministerio de Inclusión Económica y Social, que es el ministerio responsable de este servicio. También aquí formó parte la academia, que es la Universidad Católica del Ecuador, el Consejo Intergeneracional y obviamente nuestras adultas mayores. 6 adultas mayores participaron en el equipo evaluador, 2 por cada centro del pilotaje que les había mencionado anteriormente, y sus facilitadores. Los facilitadores son los encargados de realizar las actividades con ellos y garantizar su envejecimiento activo y saludable. Ahí pueden ver algunas fotos de nuestras adultas mayores también. Para esta evaluación nosotros nos planteamos un objetivo general, que era obviamente fortalecer, evaluar este servicio para poder fortalecer y evidenciar y retroalimentar el servicio que están recibiendo nuestras adultas mayores, y 5 objetivos específicos. No los voy a leer los 5 objetivos específicos, pero voy a comentarles de manera general. El primero era revisar si la norma técnica del adulto mayor de este servicio está acorde a la realidad y está con los estándares que realmente sirven para ellos. Revisar las condiciones también de trabajo de los facilitadores. ¿Por qué? Porque esto nosotros, bueno, aquí ya les voy a compartir después este proceso, pero hicimos varios talleres, y en estos talleres de preparación del diseño de la evaluación pudimos evidenciar que era necesario incluir un objetivo específico de las condiciones de los facilitadores, algo que no lo teníamos mapeado en un inicio, pero estos son los beneficios que nos da una evaluación participativa. También revisar los temas de articulación entre el Ministerio de Inclusión Económica y Social y el Ministerio de Salud. También ver si los proyectos socioeducativos, es decir, si las actividades que realmente tienen en estos espacios son o no los adecuados a las necesidades de los adultos mayores. Nosotros le llamamos more than words, más que palabras. En nuestro proceso ya de ejecución de la evaluación, nosotros iniciamos recolectando la información. Para esto es importante mencionar que todo el equipo evaluador, con todos los actores que les decía, academia, instituciones del Ejecutivo, ciudadanos, o sea, los beneficiarios directos, sus facilitadores, creamos los instrumentos de evaluación, de recolección de información. Para esto creamos instrumentos como entrevistas, grupos focales, encuestas y un juego dinámico para poder obtener información de las adultas mayores, porque como les comento, estas personas están en situación de pobreza y pobreza extrema. Muchas de estas adultas mayores no saben leer, por lo tanto tuvimos que saber adaptarnos para poder obtener la información que necesitábamos de ello. Es importante aquí mencionar que se hizo un pilotaje de estos instrumentos para saber si es que sí iban a funcionar o no iban a funcionar en la recolección de información. Hicimos un juego súper dinámico como una escalera con serpientes, donde se contenían preguntas abiertas y preguntas cerradas también. Después de esto sistematizamos y analizamos la información. Obviamente en esta fase no participan las adultas mayores, pero sí un equipo ya más técnico de la Secretaría Nacional de Planificación y del Ministerio de Inclusión Económica y Social, que es la institución responsable de este servicio. También preparamos ya aquí los hallazgos, los mismos que después fueron presentados en 2 niveles, a nivel técnico y a nivel de tomadores de decisión. ¿Por qué a nivel de tomadores de decisión? Porque de esa forma vamos involucrando a los tomadores de decisión para garantizar el uso de las evaluaciones. Es importante mencionar que en todo este proceso del equipo de evaluador siempre estuvieron los subsecretarios, incluida yo, para tomar decisiones que a veces a nivel técnico no se lo puede hacer. Es importante también mencionar el apoyo político que se necesita para este tipo de evaluaciones, porque al ser sumamente larga y compleja también se necesita bastante apoyo político. Finalmente se desarrollaron las conclusiones, hicimos varios workshops, como les comento, para ir validando y priorizando también las recomendaciones. ¿Por qué? Porque todas las recomendaciones pueden ser viables, pero hay recomendaciones a corto, mediano y largo plazo. Finalmente ya tenemos nuestro informe de evaluación, que próximamente lo podremos cargar en nuestra página web y lo podrán ir revisando. ¿Cuáles son los desafíos con los que nosotros nos encontramos? Es el tiempo, poder coincidir con todos el tiempo de las reuniones, participar en talleres sumamente largos de horas, también los recursos, no solo de recursos financieros, sino también de recursos humanos, porque nosotros somos ejecutores de la evaluación, pero somos un grupo de 17 personas en toda la subsecretaría que tengo a mi cargo, pero netamente de esta evaluación son 3 personas. Entonces también fue uno de nuestros limitantes. También uno de los desafíos es la participación activa de todos los actores. Esto es sumamente esencial para garantizar una evaluación participativa y el trabajo colaborativo. ¿Qué lecciones y buenas prácticas nos deja a nosotros como Ecuador este tipo de evaluaciones? Es saber adaptarnos, es ver el empoderamiento de nuestras adultas mayores que al inicio tenían miedo de hablar, pero hoy en día ya se paran ellas y ellas exponen y explican todo el proceso de evaluación. También el involucramiento, no solo a nivel técnico, sino a nivel completo de autoridades, que las autoridades estén involucradas en todo el proceso, y la transparencia, olvidarnos de los cargos y estar al mismo nivel con todos. Y finalmente, nuestros siguientes pasos es estructurar un plan de acción para finalizar ya la evaluación y se pueden usar, y buscamos preparar una guía de evaluación participativa en Ecuador. Ya se me acabó el tiempo, pero quiero mostrarles algunas de las caras de evaluación de este proceso. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. No problem.
好，谢谢。大家上午好，下面我就用中文为大家分享一个中国的故事。好，这是我在2019年做的一个贫困评估项目。这个评估的对象是中国的贵州省。贵州是一个非常美丽的地方。接下来，让我们通过一段视频给大家展示一下今天的贵州。
What kind of Guizhou have you seen? Guizhou, located on the plateau of southwest China, was once seen as a barren place. But now, Guizhou has rewritten her history. Her 9.23 million people have risen out of absolute poverty and begun their better life. It was once considered a closed place, but today it has more than 8,700 kilometers of highways and 15,400 bridges, connecting the world across mountains and valleys. Of the top 100 high bridges in the world, nearly half are in Guizhou. Here, diverse ethnic cultures integrate and coexist. They learn from each other and burst into vitality, time and space, history and future are all re-architected and connected here. It's a place that pushes the limits of imagination. The possibilities are endless here. Guizhou, a colorful place with infinite possibilities.
好，如此美丽的地方，但是它在5年前还是中国贫困人口最多、扶贫难度最大的一个省份。因此，在中国，贵州省消除绝对贫困的成功实践也被誉为中国减贫的样板。中国在改革开放以来，已经有7亿多人摆脱了绝对贫困，占到了全球减贫率的70%以上。那么，我们国家减贫事业大致可以分为4个阶段。第一个阶段，通过农村改革促进农村经济发展的减少贫困阶段，以贫困带、贫困县、贫困村为单位的缓解绝对贫困阶段，以及以贫困人口为减贫单位的消除绝对贫困阶段。和现在我们正在进行当中的巩固脱贫成果、防止绝对贫困再次发生的乡村振兴阶段。因此，为适应我们现阶段减少相对贫困的目标，那么使用多维贫困指数与收入贫困标准相结合的方式，将更有利于我们当前的减贫工作。那么多维贫困评估实际上它也更符合贫困的多维性的本质，而且多维贫困评估能够更好地发现和解决贫困人口所面临的各种问题，能够为管理者提供谁是贫困人口、导致贫困的原因是什么、贫困的程度如何等信息，也能够了解和跟踪政策对于贫困人口的影响，帮助我们提高政策的效果效率。多维贫困评估也是验证可持续发展目标是否能够实现的重要工具之一。同时，多维贫困指数是在地区的政策的背景下制定出来的，因此指数的本身其实它也是反映了地区政策的针对性。那么，为什么说贵州更具有代表性？刚刚大家在视频中也看到了，贵州有61.9%以上的国土面积都是喀斯特地貌，这导致贵州省交通闭塞、自然灾害频发、工程性缺水严重。贵州拥有49个少数民族，其中世世代代居住在贵州的民族就有18个，这导致贵州文化差异大，教育也相对落后，我们的减贫工作难度也很大。贵州的产业结构单一，经济落后，从而导致农村人口的就业困难，社会公共事业发展也相对落后。因此，我们基于贵州的这些自身特点，然后在贵州省多维贫困指标体系中有针对性地增加了就业、安全以及农作物受灾情况和工程性缺水情况等指标，设计了这个多维贫困的指数。那么在贫困结果的呈现上，综合运用了地理信息系统，让我们来发现，不同维度的贫困状况在时空上的一个变化情况。比如在这个图中，红色的地方 就是没有贫困的地区，而深蓝色是重度贫困区，浅蓝色为中度贫困区，黄色为轻度贫困区。那么随着减贫工作的不断推进，大家可以看到，而轻度贫困区开始逐渐聚集，重度贫困区和中度贫困区面积也在逐渐缩小。可见，其实区域之间的文化相近、政策相近，包括他们的经济之间的辐射性，都会影响我们的扶贫工作。那么通过评估对了，我们除了在这次贵州的多维贫困评估中，除了采用地理信息系统进行整体性评估外，我们还利用贵州省的贫困人口监测数据，抽取了3万贫困人口的产业扶贫情况的评估。那么我们通过评估可以发现，在这个社会保障维度以及健康维度，其实对于这个减贫的贡献率是最大的。也就是说，在中国当前的减贫工作中，包容性的社会政策对于减贫工作的贡献还是很大的。同时在指标维度上来看的话，就业、安全以及妇女儿童健康依然还有可能会成为我们致贫的一个因素。所以，基于一些问题，我们也提出了一些相应的政策，比如大力推行2、3产业的发展，然后来吸引农村人口就业。刚刚大家看到提到贵州的交通的基础设施建设，包括桥梁建设，在建设的过程中大量吸引了农村人口的就业，同时也为贵州的交通问题得到了很大的缓解。同时，我们在每个村设置这种卫生岗位，就是这种所谓的特聘岗位，然后来保证农村人口的这种保健工作。最后就是因为贵州大家刚刚看到它有49个少数民族，所以我们在保护原有民族文化的基础上，大力推进民族特色教育，然后主要是采取这种9年义务教育。其实通过评估可以发现，对于贫困人口来说，初中教育水平就已经可以满足他们发展种植业、养殖业，从而来增加家庭的这种经济收入。而高中以上的这种教育文化水平的农村人口，可能会更倾向于选择异地就业。同时，在推进这种特色民族教育的过程中，我们也很关注这种普通话教育。我记得我们 session 有我们的演讲者在里面就是发布了那个大家的投票，就是说如果在这样的地区是哪一个维度可能更会影响我们这种民族地区的评估，我就选择的是语言，因为在评估过程中发现沟通和语言可能更有助于我们更快的帮助他们。最后就是我的结束了。2019年在贵州省参与这个贫困调查的过程，可以说是我这几年最珍贵的一段经历。我始终相信，通过我们一代又一代人的努力，那么人人平等、共同富裕的美好愿景终将会实现。谢谢大家。
I'm sure you'll agree with me, these presentations are really inspiring, really important. I hope you don't mind us, going into the tea break slightly. We did have a very, very large panel, so please bear with us. And we will wrap up as soon as we can. We'll take 2 or 3 questions after Florita's presentation. Thank you.
Muy buenos días a todas y todos. Un saludo muy especial del Gobierno de Costa Rica, del Ministerio de Planificación Nacional y Política Económica y del área de evaluación y seguimiento. Costa Rica tiene una tradición democrática, tiene una tradición de participación. Y esto lo tiene desde la Constitución Política. La Ley de Planificación Nacional también, que tiene 60 años, también considera la participación en todo el ciclo de planificación. Y también nuestra legislación del área de evaluación y seguimiento fomenta la participación. En este marco, una vez que Costa Rica decidió empezar a trabajar con el área y con la temática de evaluación, también consideró dentro de su instrumental técnico y metodológico la participación en los procesos de evaluación. Tuvimos la oportunidad en el marco del proyecto FOSEVAL, que es a través del Instituto de Evaluación de Alemania y con la cooperación del Banco Federal Alemán de Cooperación para el Desarrollo, de tener la oportunidad en una región específica de Costa Rica de una evaluación con participación, y que ahí tuvimos a un compañero del que se presentó hoy, tuvimos esa oportunidad de compartir con ellos las experiencias que ellos ya tenían en evaluación participativa. De esta experiencia, Costa Rica decidió elaborar una guía de evaluación con participación. La guía de evaluación con participación es muy interesante porque fue elaborada con participación. Participación a nivel institucional, participación a nivel regional, y fue también muy importante la participación de el Consejo Nacional de Personas con Discapacidad. Entonces, en síntesis, tenemos un marco legal, tenemos un marco conceptual, tenemos un marco instrumental y elaboramos esta guía con participación. Es una adaptación de los instrumentos. En ese sentido, entonces, es un instrumento que tiene como ese propósito de brindar los insumos para poder elaborar una evaluación con participación de todos los actores y principalmente con la participación de los usuarios. En ese sentido, entonces se adaptan, por ejemplo, las etapas de evaluación y se sintetizan en 3, muy sencillo, de manera muy sencilla y muy básica: planear, hacer, usar. Y en cada una de ellas tienen actividades que se desarrollan en conjunto con todos los actores. Y aquí es muy importante que hay actividades y hay técnicas que se adaptan para cada una de esas etapas. En este marco, nosotros, Costa Rica, entonces desarrolló una evaluación aplicando la guía. Y precisamente en el país, en cada gobierno, se define una agenda nacional de evaluaciones. Cada gobierno decide cuáles son las evaluaciones estratégicas que se van a desarrollar en un periodo gubernamental. Y entonces, en ese marco se definió aplicar la guía y hacer una evaluación con participación de la Agenda Nacional de Evaluaciones, y precisamente fue el programa de promoción de la autonomía personal para personas con discapacidad. Entonces, no solamente fue con participación, sino de un grupo especial, que es el grupo con discapacidad. Aplicamos la guía en todas sus etapas, se desarrolló la evaluación y lo más importante, se elaboró el informe, se desarrollaron todas las etapas y lo más importante de esta evaluación es que se hacen las conclusiones, todo el proceso se desarrolla en conjunto con todos los usuarios. ¿Por qué la importancia? Y aquí, bueno, nos han dado realmente muy bonitas, muy especiales todas las presentaciones que se han hecho con anterioridad. ¿Y por qué es importante una evaluación con participación? Hay una comprensión integral de las necesidades. Hay un aprendizaje. No se deja nadie atrás. Las intervenciones se legitiman. Por ejemplo, en este caso que hicimos esta evaluación de este programa para las personas con discapacidad. Hay esa construcción que es colectiva. Tenemos también que la evaluación se centra en las necesidades. Y una de las cosas fundamentales que tiene la evaluación con participación, donde hay evaluación con participación, hay mayor uso de esa evaluación. Y esto es lo más importante, porque en este caso que tuvimos la oportunidad de elaborar esta evaluación para este grupo de población, en tanto toda la evaluación fue elaborada con ellos, las recomendaciones, entonces hay una mayor apropiación de lo que se debe de hacer para mejorar esa política pública. Y de esa manera, entonces, se puede usar la evaluación, mejorar la política pública y, en este caso, mejorar las condiciones de vida de esa población. Costa Rica y el Sistema Nacional de Evaluación realmente se siente muy satisfecho de contar con este instrumento de evaluación con participación. Hemos también tenido la oportunidad de, en conjunto con FOSELAC, llevar esta experiencia a México y ahí se aplicó la guía y se hizo una adaptación de esta guía. Eso fue en el gobierno de Jalisco. Y así nosotros ponemos a disposición con mucha humildad un instrumento que hemos elaborado y que hoy estamos usando en el gobierno de Costa Rica para lograr lo que todos queremos, y es evaluaciones que tengan mayor participación de todos para que de esta manera tenga mayor uso para mejorar las condiciones de vida de las poblaciones que están inmersas dentro de los procesos de una intervención pública. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Wonderful, perfect timing. Thank you so much, Madam Florita. And so to give you at least 15 minutes of a break, I'm going to ask for two very, very quick burning comments or questions. The rest, I think you should grab the panelists during lunchtime to ask them more in-depth questions. So if we have just two, maximum of two very quick questions or comments, if there are any. I've got one hand. Anybody want to take a second hand? Thank you so much, Adi. So let's get the mic to you, number one first.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I have a question about Jocelyn. You mentioned if you are from government, so I wonder how you pick up the project to give the policy support. I think all the projects need the government support, but you can't give the support to all the projects. So how you pick up? Thank you.
Thank you. And then I think there's another one.
Thanks very much to government officer from Ecuador. Yes, yeah, I'm working on the ADB's long-term care evaluation, so I was very, your presentation was relevant to me. So I wanted to ask, it seems like the planning government body involved in this evaluation, right? So was it a kind of a country-led evaluation? And what was the participation of other stakeholders in that evaluation? And you mentioned it was a pilot, so I was wondering what was the maybe findings on the scaling up the nationwide. Thank you.
Just a quick one. It's a question to the first presenter. Thank you so much. It was extremely interesting. So in relation to the BRICS, you just mentioned about, the OECD criteria. And is there any shift or is there any thinking in terms of, keeping or making, some amendment in terms of, contextualizing some of these criteria? And the second question that I have is when you were talking about, BRICS, you were focusing on, the first foundational, members. But now I think it turned out to be, the BRICS Plus. And if there is, any thinking in terms of, incorporating, those countries and having, because we're talking about, decolonizing, evaluation, if there is, any change in terms of, the different, country context in terms of, adapting that. Over.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions. The first questions, te puedo decir ahí que cómo el gobierno ha apoyado esto es que iniciamos sensibilizando este tipo de evaluaciones en las autoridades que pueden tomar decisiones. Es decir, a nivel de ministros, viceministros y subsecretarios, que es la estructura en Ecuador, que son tomadores de decisiones, hay que iniciar sensibilizando este tipo de evaluación para que pueda sostenerse y transcurrir durante todo el tiempo que dure la evaluación. Por ejemplo, en Ecuador existió cambios anticipados de presidente, por lo tanto hubo cambio de autoridades en la Secretaría Nacional de Planificación. En este sentido, ¿cómo nosotros hicimos? Es una carta o un oficio del proyecto FOSELAC, que fueron quienes nos apoyaron en este proyecto, en esta evaluación, poder indicarles a las nuevas autoridades. Entonces, para poder contar con el apoyo de gobierno, porque yo soy subsecretaria, fue sensibilizar a mi ministra la importancia y los beneficios de este tipo de evaluación. Eso respecto a la primera pregunta. Respecto a la segunda pregunta, no sé si por la traducción estuvo un poco mal, pero no existió un proyecto piloto. Lo que hicimos es que este tipo de servicios en Ecuador hay 43 a nivel nacional. Escogimos 3 para poder realizar esta evaluación piloto. Contamos con el apoyo del proyecto FOSELAC. El proyecto FOSELAC está financiado por DEVAL. Entonces, no hubo ahí piloto, lo que hicimos es el pilotaje de los instrumentos de recolección de información.
Thank you very much for the question. I think the second one is slightly easier. I want to address firstly, our membership expansion started from 2021, September. Now we have 8 full members, including Egypt, UAE, and Bangladesh, to join the bank in 2021, early 2022. We also have another 2 prospective members, Algeria and Uruguay, their application already approved by our Board of Governors for joining the bank, but waiting for their internal legislation, their parliament to approve that. And for the Bangladesh, my colleagues from the operations are working very hard, and they are doing the appraisal for 2 potential solvent operations in Dhaka water project. You can find the perspective about the proposal in our website. These are processing their operations. For the Egypt, this year we have done also an international seminar in the country, in Cairo, to talk about how to work with the country. I think my colleagues in operations, especially for the private sector, also working very closely with the government to working on the potential pipeline regarding how to work with them. And also we do have 2 operations located in Lesotho Kingdom, but eventually benefit the people in Joburg for the water sanitation. But we do have a policy work operations outside the member countries, and our article agreement don't stop us doing so. But so far, we're still trying to consolidate the resources to benefit our major member countries at this stage. First question regarding the OECD criteria. As a multilateral development bank, we are trying to also join the evaluation cooperation group of the MDBs, and we're trying to also follow their standard, but on a customer-based approach. For example, last year, I presented 2 evaluations we have done in South Africa and also Brazil for the on-lending through the national development banks. And according to my colleagues from the MDB, probably we should follow non-solvent operation or even the private sector sector evaluation criteria by the ECG group, because those operations, they don't have sovereign guarantees. But as a multilateral development banks by the different countries, we work very closely with the national development banks in the country. And those operations have a very strong public sector driven, policy driven. For example, South Africa in the context of the RAPE. So that's why we do the customize, not only review the OECD DAC criteria on the overall arching, but for the sub-project, we also review financial performance, environmental sustainability to certain perspective on a customized blended approach. So if you're interested, you can go to our website. The evaluation report also published there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Did we cover all the responses? Okay, we did. Thank you so much. First of all, to the exceptional presentations, please give the panel another round of applause. There's no time to wrap up anything, but just I think the final comment is that there is a lot of momentum. We've moved beyond theoretical talking about what needs to change. Some changes are really happening. For those of us who aren't yet in that wave of the momentum of doing something, please do, let's join hands and do the doing and not only talking about how change needs to happen. Thank you so much.